Hello, everyone. I'm Dasha Jameson with Red Rock Pastel Society of Nevada. Today, on sunny day of July 14th, we are getting together with our Masters Division judge, Lina Asselta. She's an signature pastelist with Pastel Society of America and eminent pastelist with IAPS. Uh, Wonderful artist. She has her solo show coming up in Maine this August, and very giving and generous teacher. So today she's going to share with us some of her secrets, and especially about the importance occasionally to work small. I will let Lynn to have a floor, and I'm going to spotlight her uh, to let us know what she'll be talking about today.
Hi. Thank you, Dasha. It's so nice to be here. Thanks for having me. Um, Today, I want to talk to you a bit about small work. I'm one of these people who I tend to work really large. Normal for me is about 24 by 24 or larger. So every so often, I turn back to some small 6x6s, and I feel as though they are a really, really important tool that you can use to kind of train your eye. So I was sitting down last night and I was trying to think about what I wanted to say to you, and I wrote a few things down. So I'm going to read a little bit of that to you before I get started. Um, I think that there are some aspects of art that don't have a formula. There's no way to really teach them. Sometimes there's a concept that you can only grasp by doing it or by experimenting. And I think that for me, over the course of my art journey, the small paintings have been really the best teaching tool for that. Because what I'm trying to learn is to trust my instincts. I'm trying to learn to be able to look at a painting as I'm working on it, and to be able to judge what I'm seeing, to say to myself, does this work? Does this shape work? Does this color work? Does this placement work? All of those things. There are things that compositionally you can refer back to some rules, but there's always a mark that will throw something off, or there's something that will make it that will take your painting from a situation where you're going along and everything's going well, and all of a sudden it's not. And so one of the things that's helped me is to work really small and to get simple. So there's really no formula for knowing, in quotes, when a painting feels balanced or when shapes and colors are working together correctly. You have to be able to see it, you have to be able to feel it, you have to be able to just know it. So small paintings kind of hone your eye. They help you to recognize when that shape or that mark or the movement of the mark affects the composition, whether it's positive or negative. Sometimes you'll make a mark and you'll say, oh, that's going to work. Or sometimes you'll make a mark and it'll just ruin a big section. So by working small over the years, it's helped me to understand that better. It's helped me to learn to anticipate things before I make a mark. It's taught me that the size of the marks that you make is really, truly important. The direction of the marks you make is important. Your color choice is important. What you put the color up against another color is important. They've kind of, when I'm working small, it sort of is, to me, the time when I find those aha moments, the moments when I say, oh, if I do this, then if I slide a little bit of this color over it, it's going to make this pop. On a big, large painting, that takes a lot of effort to make a mark that takes up enough space to make that happen. On a really small painting, I can see it quick and I can say, oh, this is going to work. So these are the kind of things that I think that when you go to a workshop or you hire an instructor or you work one-on-one with somebody, it's really hard for them to say to you, this is how this happens. You've got to learn to experiment on your own in order to find these things out. These are things that your hand is different than my hand, and your marks are different from my marks, and your choice of colors is different from my choice of colors. So learning to trust your own instincts when it comes to painting is truly, truly important. So although each of these little paintings can stand on its own as a painting, it's also a painting tool for me as I make them, a learning tool. A lot of times I'll use them for different reasons. I'll do them for different reasons. Sometimes it's just to decompress after I've done a lot of really large work. If I'm like this week, I'm working on paintings for a show and they're large. And every so often it's really nice to just take a break and do a small piece. It kind of settles you down a little bit after all those marks that you're making and all of that fuss that you make over a large painting. Sometimes I'm not really truly mentally ready to go from one finished painting to the next painting, to the start of that, if they're larger paintings that I'm working on. And so I'll take a day and I'll tape a bunch of 6x6 squares up on my easel, and I'll just go one after another and just paint. Sometimes I'll use a photograph to work from, sometimes I don't. But it's just the idea of having that freedom to get on there and make these small pieces that don't take a long time, but that take a lot of effort. Sometimes they take, sometimes I'll get partway through one and I'll realize that even though it's a small painting, this is going to take me a while to learn what I have to learn from that painting. So there can be a little bit deceiving sometimes. I think we all think of things as being easier if they are smaller and less effort. But in reality, in order to make them read as a large painting, to make them a 6x6 square or a 5x7 rectangle, show the amount of space that you can show in something by using your mark making and your color to really push that back to recede in space. That's not always easy to do. But the goal is to try to use these as a learning tool. So I use them sometimes when I want to study something. A couple of years back, I did a series of cloud paintings, and I would get up every single morning and I would do a 5x7 or a 4x6 of the clouds outside my studio window every single morning, regardless. For, I think I did it for maybe, I'm not sure, a couple of months, but it taught me a ton about the way that clouds are structured, the way that the weather changes them, the way that the light changes them, the way that the sunrise is different every day. So in that amount of time, it was like taking a course over those mornings, just studying those clouds every day. So sometimes I use them also to do a series of work. If I want to, instead of taking a sketchbook on a trip, sometimes I will take those. I'll take a really small batch of pastels, and I'll take a lot of small pieces of paper so that I don't have a lot to carry. I don't like carrying a ton of stuff out there. And there have been a lot of trips where I've done 6 or 7 or 8 small works that I use as my own personal memories, like I would in a sketchbook, but it gives me the opportunity to do it with my pastels, and I can actually create these little paintings. To that end, they're easier. The small paintings are easier to pack if I want to go out and plein air paint. If I don't want to get out there and haul all my gear, there are a lot of times when I'll just take small pieces of paper and a small box of pastels and a backing board, and that's all I'll carry. I'll put it in my backpack and off I go, and I'll end up with a series of work that is a lot of times from a place that I'm not familiar with when I'm traveling. So it's a good way to learn about that place as well. For me anyway, going out and trying to do a large painting in a new place is a struggle. I like to sit with it. I like to take my time in that place, and these help me to adjust to that place. I was down in Curacao at one point, and I was kind of fascinated by the way that the light at night was so it was dense almost. It was dark and it was dense out on the beach. And so I did a series of little 4x6 paintings out there to try to capture that. And it allowed me to bring something home that I loved, but it was also something that informed my painting process later. How do I get a night scene to feel deep and dark and that thick air down where it's warm? And I think the small paintings help with that. So to me, I feel that they're invaluable. They're something that if you don't do them, you should. I think that they can become not only a learning tool, but a little bit of a challenge for you. And I think it's good to keep challenging ourselves, to keep pushing ourselves into new directions with things. So one of the things that I love about the small paintings is that they are so small that a pastel stick can make a big mark on a small painting. And I don't have the ability to nitpick and to try to be fussy with what I'm doing. I have to say something succinctly with not too many marks, and really make my point, not just quickly, because sometimes it doesn't go very quickly, but in the sense that I don't have the opportunity to fiddle. I can't be fussy with it. I have to be particular. I have to choose well when I choose my pastels. I have to think about the marks before I make them. I have to consider space and distance and how far I can create the illusion of space in this small little format. So I use them, I give them away, I sell them at my galleries, I do all these things with them when they're done. But they are, to me, if I could look back and see and ask myself, what was the one thing that really helped me to learn? I would say these paintings were it. I would say that every time I do one, I learn something new. So I hope that I'm going to demo a couple for you today. We've got just a short amount of time, so I'm going to try to squeeze in two, maybe three. And I hope you'll give it a try. I hope that when you get back to your studios, you will sit down every so often and just take a scrap of paper and stick it up on your easel and see what you can do. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to get ready to do my first one here. I'm going to switch my camera off and I'm going to let Dasha highlight the easel. So let's see if I can, how can I do this? There we go.
I spotlighted your easel. I hope guys, everyone can see it.
Okay. So right now on the easel, I've got, can you see the bottoms of these? I think I might have to move my camera back a bit. Oops, I'm sorry. Let's see. There we go. I'm going to work on the first two here to start with. So what I've got here is I've got a couple of photo references that that I want to work from today for you so that you can see where I'm going with my process. This particular image has a whole lot of orange in it. So I've gone ahead and I've toned this paper and I've kind of toned it in a way that it's a little bit darker at the top, a little bit lighter at the bottom. This particular one also has a nice big streak of orange through here. And I've toned it here with that, but the rest is just UART 400. And that's what I'm working on for all three of these images that I've got. So the thing that I want to concentrate on with this first one here is that light shining on. This was taken in January, I believe. The ground is partially frozen, so the light is kind of reflecting off of this skim of ice there. But what I'm really fascinated with is the tree and the color situation that's going on here. We read it in a photograph as being dark, and there's a lot of dark thrown in here in the shadows. There's a lot of black. But as I look at it and I see the way that the sun is coming through this tree, there's a lot of backlighting going on there, and there's a sort of a dark orangey glow to that. So I want to think about that as I'm painting. And I also know that the camera is going to throw in, and especially if I print it out, it's going to throw in black into shadows everywhere. So I'm going to end up with more dark than I need. In this particular image, there's a house here, and I think I'm going to just leave the house out for time's sake here. So so I'll start often with a hard pastel, and I'll just kind of lay in where I want things. And so I sort of make notes to myself as I go along. I'm just kind of, instead of thinking out loud, I'm just drawing my notes basically. And those little notes that I make on the paper, those become kind of markers for where I want to go with this piece. There's also, here in this piece, there's a bright, bright sun. And I don't want to, I want to utilize that, but I don't want to be making a circle there. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take and I'm going to make a mark to let me know where that's going to be, is here. So now I've got everything that I need here now, motion wise, note wise, to get this image started. So what I start to do is I start to break it down into pieces and parts, into shapes. So I have this one big shape here that has light coming down through the center of it here, and sort of coming this way and along the strips where the road is indented. I've got a kind of a medium value row of trees and things along the back here. The water is a little bit brighter than that here, but here it's about the same value, and this is a darker value here. So I'm thinking in terms of maybe 5 or 6 shapes total as I do this. So I'm going to go ahead and think about the fact that there's a lot of, like I said, a lot of orange and yellow here. It's sort of yellow leaning. I don't know, it looks a little more orange on my screen than it actually is. I'm not sure what it looks like on your screen. I'm going to work with some orangey yellows, some warm yellows, and some violets to do this. And that's all I'm going to work with. I'm going to work with just the 2 of those to see what I can pull off. So I'm going to choose a few pastels out of my box. I'll show you in just a second what I've got in my hand. So I have, I'm gonna wipe one off. Right now I have, I don't know if you can see them, I have these in my hand. And that's how I'm gonna get started here. So I'm gonna go ahead and lay in some of the sky.
Aileen, there is a question. What did you use to tone your paper?
I used, it's a product that I use quite a bit, and it's called Createx Pure Pigment. It's the stuff that Kitty Wallace used to recommend with her paper way back when, and I've used it for years. It's a liquid pigment, water-based, very intense color, but very thin washes of color. so that you're not filling up the tooth of your paper with it. But it comes from a company called createxcolors.com. So I'm going to look for something for this. I'm just going to kind of start tapping in a few colors that I think are close to what I'm seeing. Got there's a little space here. So this is kind of a sort of a cool orange, dark orange. I've got to get this dark here, and this dark is going to be important, but I want to balance it with this. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make some marks down here. And these will probably get worked in to the rest of this piece as I go. So to me, the goal is never to replicate exactly what I'm seeing, but rather to create the feeling that's there. So I'm more concerned with the quality of how this feels as I go along than the actual than actually being true to exactly what I see.
Lynn, may I ask you a question? So, as a judge, are you going also by what you see or by what you feel from the pieces what coming in?
As a judge,
Yeah.
that's a really good question. When I judge a show, I have this list that I made up years ago of all these technical things, you know, composition and color and even down to things like balance and I think I've got, it's maybe 12 questions or so that I sort of take into account as I'm looking at people's work. And then I rate them by number. If I, you know, I have like a scoring system for that so that I can have a way to kind of objectively judge work. But then if I have pieces that are really close, if I have two pieces that are very, very close and I'm not sure what I want to do and which one I want to choose, then I take into account my own feelings for it. And I say to myself, is this something that I could live with for a long time, or would I get tired of it after a while? And that's kind of the tiebreaker question for me every time. So it's a little bit of both, a little bit of what I enjoy if it comes down to that, but the bulk of it is on technical ability.
Thank you so much. And guys, as a reminder, our exhibition is coming up. Entry deadline as of right now is midnight of July 15th, but I'm getting a lot of questions, and again, a lot of people need a couple of more days to enter. So I believe you will be the first to know what we will be changing deadline to July 17th. So I hope you'll get inspired. If you haven't entered, you can enter, or if you enter just one piece, you may go ahead and add some additional ones. I will share a link to our member show in the chat, and you can enter on your show submit using your artist account. So thank you so much. It was a little commercial break, and thank you all for being here. Back to Lynn.
I hope everybody goes ahead and enters. Okay, so right now I'm getting into the weeds a little bit with this. So what I want to do is I want to sit back and I want to clarify what I'm doing. I have this tree is needing some dark space here, I think. And I'm trying to look at the size of the marks that I'm making here. As they recede, they're going to be a little tighter and a little more compact. But as I move down here, I want them to be looser. Because I've got a lot of violet here, I'm going to try to drop in some yellows. If you could see me, I'm like under my camera here trying to reach this. This is what I always love about Zoom is
Unit 1C. Cannot come to the phone right now. Just leave us a message and someone will get back to you shortly. Thank you. Your message at the tone. When you are finished, hang up.
Yeah, that's what I was asking you.
okay. So I want to create this sort of light effect here. So I think I need a little bit more orange in there. I need some darker violet here. I'm gonna pull a darker violet. Sometimes as I'm working on this one, I think I've got a piece. I thought I had UART 400, but I think I've got a piece of Fisher going on here. It feels a little bit different than what I'm used to with the UART. And I think it might be a different paper because I can feel it under my stick. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to play with just for a minute more, and then I'm gonna move on to the next one, and then I'll come back to this if we have time. I want to make sure that we are getting time to do the others here as well. But one of the things I want you to see with this is that if I had an hour, I could spend an hour easily on this one particular little painting. But I feel like I'd like you to kind of see how other ones progress as well. So I'll kind of zip through this real quick. And with this one, I always try to figure out what I'm learning with a piece. And this one is feeling like I've got too much pastel on it. So sometimes when that happens, I'll go through and I will scrape it with a palette knife, just to sort of take off a little bit of what's on the surface. Because again, I don't want to get too thick with my pastel on these, because I like the idea of having that underpainting on this one work its way through. There's also here a little bit of sunlight coming down through these trees. It's sort of really late afternoon sun. There's a little bit of violet up in the sky up here. I'm gonna throw a little bit of that in. So every so often you do a demo for a group and it's not your favorite painting ever. So this one is not my favorite painting ever, but I do like what's starting here. This is one that I would go back in and I would work longer, because I feel like it's got some potential to do things if I have more time with it. So with this one, I think I would come back for this one and see what I could do with it, because I feel as though there's a lot more to be learned with this one. Especially with the way that this light is. I think it's far too light right now, and I think it needs to be darkened up quite a bit, and I think that that would have to happen as I got further into the painting. So I think let's take this one and we'll set this aside for now, and we'll start with the other one. And it, like I said, if I have time to come back to this one before we finish up, I'll do that. But I think what I want to find with this is that sense of, what's the sense of the light here? I think that's the important thing with this particular piece. And for right now, I think it's got a ways to go, but it's on a good little trajectory for that. So let me move my camera over to,
Lynn, and I just checked if we will need to have a little bit longer time, we can. So do not worry and do not rush if we need a
Okay.
little bit more time today. So
okay,
we are good.
that sounds,
Nap routine was successful.
oh, good. Okay. Then I will take just a few more minutes on this one. I think a lot of what I try to find with these small pieces is the movement, the gesture of them. I think it's kind of equivalent in a way to making a gesture drawing when you're working with the figure. You're just sort of trying to get the overall feel of it. And I think that becomes the important element in it. And I always try to find something that becomes kind of that one mark or set of marks that really sets something off and really makes a difference with a piece, and even in these small ones. So I think that maybe something in here, some sort of light here might be a good start. And I think I really want to make this here glow a little bit more. I'm gonna add a little bit more of this orange here. So I'm gonna leave this one right here. And I'm gonna go ahead on to the next one now. I'm gonna work with this sky. This is there's actually, you can see here, I don't know if you can see it on your screen, there's a little dot here that looks like a moon, but in fact the moon is up here and this is just a camera splotch. But what I really love about this is this really, really intense blue sky against this really dark cloud. And how am I going to manage something like that up against something really dark here? So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with some of the lights, because I don't want, they're yellowy orange. And once I hit some blue there, I don't want to let those blend. I don't want to get a green. So I'm going to start with the bottom with a really, really dark blue. I'm just going to lay that in so that I've got that started. There's this nice little blue lake here that kind of comes in. There's also this, it looks almost like another mountain in the back, but it's part of this cloud, I believe. So I've got something happening there that is kind of interesting, actually. I think one of the fun things about doing these is that you don't have to be shy with your pastel. You can really make some bold marks with it and see what happens. I'm going to add a little bit of sort of a pinky color down here. This has a hint of orange in it, and the reason I'm using that is because against the blue, it's going to stand out a little bit more. So I'm going to add some of that. Oops. And then I'm going to start playing with this gradation that happens here. It was almost to an a yellow. I'm going to actually put my finger in it. And then it moves up to a green. And then it goes to a blue. So you can see the colors sort of building up into that sky.
That sky gradient, that's what got me in a pastel, because there is no camera what can capture that gradient, what happening in the sky.
I agree. You can get hints of it with your camera, but that's as
Yes,
as
yeah,
far as
yeah.
you go.
And I think pastel is, I mean, you can do beautiful gradients with oil as well as watercolor, but just pastel made for it.
I agree. There's something really, really beautiful about the way that you can sort of push that color into other colors, you know? I think it just lends itself really well to these gorgeous kind of skies. I want to really be careful of the thing I want to try here is this sense of these two clouds being so, the sky and the cloud being so different. I want this sky to be dark enough to handle it. So I don't often use my fingers, but in this one, I think it's appropriate. And I can see that it needs a combination. There's kind of, what's interesting to me about the sky is that it's often both warm and cool. This blue that I've used is kind of a very warm blue. But this sky gets really cool as it goes up, and it needs both. So this here. Now I've got to find a way to lighten it up just enough down here that when I add this cloud, it's going to feel like the cloud is darker than the sky. So I'm kind of watching my edges here. This one has a little more green in it that I just picked up. So now as it touches the orange below here, I have to be careful because it's going to start to mix with that orange and it's going to look, it's going to take on almost a green hint. So right now I've got a blue that has more violet in it. And so I'm just going to kind of hint at what's happening in this sky. I'm not going to try to make it exact, but the other thing is that this is too light. So I can adjust that now and see if I can get that a little bit closer. And there's a lot of yellow going on under here, which is kind of interesting because it morphs into some green up above. And I've got to get these little lakes down here. I think they're important as well, just color wise. So let me find a little bit, I need a bit darker. So I need to kind of make this darker. It doesn't look to me like night yet. So I've got a little ways to go here to create that. So there's a bit of violet coming through here. A bit of almost a green happening in here. So sometimes I get to a point where I want to just sort of trust what I know about what I'm looking at. And I no longer want to look at this. And I think I'm at that point where I just want to make marks that make sense rather than what I see there. I want something that makes sense with what I've actually painted on here. So at this point, I want to make sure that I'm getting rid of any extra light in the sky that doesn't need to be there. And I want to, I want to bring this kind of darkness here down a bit. This cloud has a little bit of, looks a little ominous in some way. So I want to think about that. I want to think about the fact that some of what's underneath it here is more cloud. I do want to make this still a little bit deeper and darker. So that just made a huge difference, just adding this. I should probably have a piece of white tape here so you could see the bottom edge of this. There are also some clouds here that are sort of a kind of a violet, I guess, kind of wispy, sort of. I think this is not quite what I'm looking for. I need this. One of the things I liked about this was that there were little sort of lights dotted here and there in the down here where there's obviously some kind of houses or something. I think sometimes when I'm working on something that's very dark, a lot of times I work on dark, a dark backboard. And it's nice to take the tape off afterward and to see what you've got at the edges. We've got that moon up here. And because this is blue, I'm going to use kind of a orangey color here. I'm not going to be concerned at all with whether or not it seems round. I think if you do that, it tends to look like it's fake. So we'll see if that, let's see how much this matters here. I'm not so sure that I even need it. I put it in here and I'm kind of looking at it going, it's okay. But I feel like it could be either darker around it, which we can try. So let's try that and see if that makes it make more sense. Not so sure. I'm tempted to let the moon go altogether or to hide it like that a little bit. I don't think it needs to be a really active part of the image. Even when I'm putting my fingers in it like this, that my fingers are making marks. And so I'm careful about what they're doing. So I'm going to pull this tape so you can see the bottom edge at least.
That's exciting moment always.
Isn't it? I know.
Yes.
It's always fun. Okay. So I think I'm going to leave that one there. And if we have to, I don't know, we're right at almost at 2 o'clock. Did you want to go ahead and do another 15 minutes or do you want to?
Would you like to start another one or come back to this one? How are you feeling? Like what's calling your name?
Let's do this one here real quick because I've got no underpainting here and I'll just do a really quick sort of, I'll move my camera over and let's see.
And right when you're doing that, let me remind everybody about our upcoming exhibition. Entry deadline is listed July 15th at midnight, but we are going to extend it to July 17th. And you guys who are online right now are the first to know about it. So you have a little bit more time and an advance notice, okay? So I hope you're getting inspired and we'll start painting. And let me show Lynn's folder about small works, what she was talking about. If I'm not wrong, there are 4 of the images what are small works, part of this exercise what Lynn is talking about. And this one is actually larger work called Waiting for Lynn's upcoming show, solo show in Maine. So this one is your usual size, 32 by 32, and rest are 6 by 6. And it's important. Lynn, when I'm showing this, another question, do you, like, if you have successful mini one, would you say, let me do a bigger one, or you will leave it as is? Like, how does it usually work for you?
You know, for me, I have never really used these as a stepping stone to a larger painting. I know a
Okay.
lot of people do small works before they do a large work, to sort of build up to that painting, but I never have. I always look at them as kind of an experiment, all of them. I look at them as a way to sort of imagine new things with what I'm doing. So, or to just kind of learn color and the way that color moves up against other colors. So I don't really use them that way.
That would be funny. You say that, but you're not using them for larger pieces. And first thing comes to mind is our another judge of the open division, Jacob. And I had the pleasure, Jacob Aguirre, I had the pleasure to attend his demo at IAPS, I believe 2019. That's when I saw his demo for the first time. And he was saying, I'm gonna do this smaller piece, 6 by 6, for my bigger piece. And
Yeah.
he did 6 by 6 for his 8 by 8. And
For his 8x8. So he did it for just one that was just a little bit bigger. Is that what he did?
yeah, yes. And it was different. Like you can see what one was more sketchy and free, and another one was like was done more to it. But it was interesting how he worked out all his little ways and transfer it to slightly bigger piece. But with my temperament, I don't think that would be possible. But that's why we're all different and all work in a different ways. So.
It's really true. Isn't that something? Yeah, I think it's interesting to see that because that's something I've never really been comfortable doing. I've tried it and it's not really, it doesn't work for me. So I just dive into the big ones. But I know it's something that a lot of people use. So
Yeah,
it
and
makes sense.
you only find it out by painting, like what works for you. I have a question in chat, what I'm gonna ask you. Where do you get your reference images? Johnny is asking.
Oh, some of them are, these three are actually from near where I live. I'm the worst person in the world for emptying out my phone because I'm always afraid I'm going to lose an image that I might want later. So I hate to almost admit it, I have over 50,000 images on my phone, and probably I would say less than an eighth of them are people I know. Most of them are just landscapes. So I'm constantly collecting images everywhere I go, just trying to find new things. I think that for me anyway, it's good because in the wintertime, I don't like to be outdoors working. And so it gives me a lot of material to play with over the winter. So this one, I'm just sort of, I'm kind of imagining what I might see if I stood out there in the fog here. This is a little bit foggy in the actual image, but I'm looking more at where I see some lighter areas and just sort of trying to add things to this little painting, almost to make the image my own rather than to try to follow exactly what's going on there. So I'm looking more at color choices here because I want it to feel foggy without, in my head, I'm sort of challenging myself with the notion of making it feel foggy without using a blue. because we tend to want to go toward that because fog seems cool to us. So I'm using violets and greens here. And so far have not used a blue at all. Just to see if I can kind of get that feel here. And I think about things like the fact that things that are closer to me in the fog are going to be a little bit more distinct. And things that are further back are not going to be distinct, or if they're there at all. So I'm just kind of playing with this color. One of the things that I noticed about fog, which I thought was really interesting, was that like right now I'm putting all this, the color that I'm putting on here for the fog, for this airspace back here, is 2 different colors of violet. To me, it looks flat. So the complement to violet is yellow, and yellow can lean a little bit warm occasionally, but if I add that complement, it seems to give the air some sort of volume. It's almost like when you look at impressionist paintings and you see that they're putting a complement next to a complement. And when they do that, everything starts to move like forward and back. You know, your eye starts to do this. And it allows for volume in the air. It allows for the air to have some sort of bigger volume than it would have if it was just the cooler color, or just a warmer color. So when you combine those, you get something that I think is always a little bit more exciting. So at this point, this doesn't look much like it's image rather than placement wise, but I'm liking the way that the colors are working together to sort of create this feeling here.
And while Lynn doing your final marks, let me remind you again about our upcoming deadline for our exhibition. It's our member show. This time we will have 2 divisions, open and masters. Please refer to prospectus to which division you may want to enter, and we will be looking to your entries. Again, we have extended our deadline to July 17th. On show submit site, it still says July 15th. So you guys are first to know, but it's July 17th. You have a couple of more days to get inspired, maybe work large or small. And that's funny thing, there is no size restrictions for online exhibition. And a little life hack, maybe you noticed what smaller paintings actually look sometimes more impressive on camera than their larger counterparts. So that's something to also consider online. But again, all your composition color skills you can apply to your images, and we hope you'll get inspired. Our judges, Lina Asselta and juror and judge for Master Division, and Open Division, Judge Jacob Aguirre, Senior Juror Sir Tonya Lane, and also jurors of selection, Sergei Petele and Adrian Giuliani. We all looking forward to your work. And back to Lynn. That's why we're all here.
So I think I'm not going to take this too much further. I think I'm going to leave it kind of where it is. If I had another hour to spend with y'all, I would go back into each one of these and really do some finishing work with them. But the thing that I want to do at this point is to just make sure that I've got sort of the overall effect already coming through with these pieces, even though they're small. I think that it's important always to kind of consider the emotional impact of a painting. And that comes from all sorts of factors, but composition and color are the things that really drive it. And I think that when you can find emotional impact in a very small work, even with very small marks and marks that aren't distinct, I think that makes for a successful attempt to learn something new. So so I'm gonna leave this one here where it is, and sort of let it sit for a day or two and look at it. And I hope that even though these are quick and simple, it gives you something new to think about when you're in your own studio, something that you can do in between paintings even. So I think what I'll do is I'll peel the sides on these a little bit so that you get to see a little bit more of what they look like. And then we'll leave it that way. So we've got this. And then the
That's
last one.
spectacular. Guys, we at the final 5 minute stretch of our meeting today. Thank you for being here this Sunday. And thank you so much, Lynn, for this wonderful, insightful demo and some permissions to work small and large if you need to and if you want to, and how you can discover different things with your work by working on a different format. Guys, you can unmute yourself, ask questions. We have last 5 minutes.
Thank you, Lynn. That's great stuff.
Oh,
Love it.
thank you. I'm not
Good
sure who is this.
It's David. David.
Oh, thank you.
David
Sorry,
Gilmore.
let me get
yeah.
my video going. Yeah, that's good exercise. I like that.
Well, I think it's always good to sort of, we all try to get looser, right? That's always like a big thing for everybody, is always to try to get a little bit looser with what you paint. But I think with these, you don't have a choice. You have to be quick and you have to be sort of decisive and you have to just sort of catch the feel of it more than anything else. So hopefully they're always a good sort of a I guess maybe a bridge to something larger, but I think on their own, they're fun to do. So maybe it's something new for you to try, hopefully.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can't really overwork them.
No, that's true. That's really true. I mean, you can go back in 10 times with them and you may ruin one, or 10 or whatever, but I think that that's part of the learning process too. You learn something when you do that. So
Cool.
Lynn, it's
Thank
Mary
you.
Blanding. Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
oh, thank you, Mary. I appreciate that.
Really
Thanks.
wonderful. It's really good to see working small, because I do that and I actually set a timer for 15 minutes.
Do you? How does that go? Because I don't ever set a timer, because sometimes I just go, oh, I want another 5 minutes, or I want another 3 minutes,
Well, I did
Yeah.
that because I do that because of Tony.
Ah,
Tony's drilled it into my head that fast, decide, don't go back, just do it.
ah,
And that, coupled with doing it small, really forces me to think. And watching you do this is really wonderful because they're really expressive. They're very expressive.
thank you.
But thank you, Mary. And guys, please tell everybody thank you to Mary, our membership chair. She's working very hard on getting your members letters to you. And thank you guys for entering our show and keeping us going so we can have our wonderful programming with artists like Lynn. And if you cannot get enough of Lynn Asselta, you can watch North Carolina's demo, I guess, where Lynn was yesterday. And if you would like to attend one of her workshops live, I believe there are a couple of places, spaces left, but I'm not certain, in Minnesota with Lake Pastel Society this fall, and with the Gap Pastel Society down in New Orleans, right?
Yeah, the one in the Degas Pastel Society, I believe, only has, I think, one opening left. So if you're interested in going to New Orleans around November,
It would be wonderful
the
there.
week before Thanksgiving, it's a really fun group. It's a great place to be, but they're filling up really fast. So
Thank you so much. And one more time, because I never can say enough, our upcoming exhibition, July 17th now, so you have till midnight of Wednesday to submit your work. We hope you will join us because it's a member exhibition, so it's open to members. And let me show how our page, so you know what you're entering the right show, looks on Show Submit. Beautiful painting by Jacob, what Show Submit chose. And you just hit create your entry, read the prospectus, agree with everything, and create your entry. So if you guys already entered, you have till Wednesday to modify your entry. You may want to add different work or something what you just painted or you think is a great exhibition piece. So you have options and more time. Thank you so much, and see you guys soon. Recording will be on YouTube later. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much, Lynn. Thank you
Thank
everyone
you.
for attending. It was great times, and see you guys soon at Award exhibition, I think. I think it's our last Zoom till Award exhibition on August something. So time to paint. Bye-bye. Thank you so much, Lynn.
Thank you, Dasha.